Well, I wanted to thank you so much for the work you do on TikTok and for being on the show. I can't imagine how much sanity you bring to people on TikTok and Instagram for those who are trying to navigate dealing with a narcissistic person. But I wanted to start a little bit with your story. You're officially diagnosed as a narcissist, yeah? Um, can you share a little on the process of
Unfortunately
determining?
for me, yeah.
Can you share a little on the process of determining that? And I guess, how did receiving the diagnosis impact your life?
Sure. So it's interesting, actually. So I was actually diagnosed at the first time, at least. Well, I'm not sure if I was diagnosed explicitly, but it was alluded to at the very least. Very young. I think I was 16, give or take. I had a violent episode that, because of um, outside pressure, I'll say, I was made to go into therapy. Um, and during that time, they kind of suggested to me that I might be a narcissist, or at least have severe narcissistic traits. And I kind of dismissed them because I was 16. I didn't give a fuck. It's like, yeah, whatever. Sure. Probably a narcissist. Who cares? And following that, it was never really on my mind much. I was always kind of like, oh yeah, that might be a thing, and maybe this thing that I did is caused by that, but like, who cares? And also thinking, oh, probably not. Um, it was very much just kind of compartmentalized away. I just didn't really care. Um, then when I entered therapy again when I was 21, because a lot of my friends were worried about me because I was like in a very depressive state, and I just lied through my teeth. Like, it was not effective. But in fairness, this was a very much not experienced clinician. And following that, I was in a relationship with a girl, and she was a very, very kind girl. She was, she was a nice person, I should say. But I ended up kind of, I had an emotional affair with somebody that I was on and on with up until that point, which I'm not proud of. I don't like that, but it is the truth. It is what happened. And once I got with that girl that I had that affair with, things started to go very rocky, as it always did with me and the girl. So I entered into therapy to kind of show this girl, like, look, I'm working on myself. I'm like being a better person, like trying to impress her and stuff. But also thinking, well, I did have a weird, not great childhood, so maybe I should look at that. Now, that relationship went down the gutter, but the that relationship ending was probably one of the best things that could have happened to me. Because once it ended, I was like, I had this girl that was like very kind to me, very good for me. We were happy. Well, I mean, okay, we weren't happy, but like we could have been happy at least. And I cheated on her with a girl who every time I'm with her makes me miserable. Why the fuck did I do that? And that's why I ask myself almost every day, or at least I did. It's like, why did I do that? And so I stay in therapy to kind of explore that question of just why I'm wired wrong. And eventually, after 2 years, because I was very much defending myself in therapy, trying to kind of put up a front, of course. And I had a day where I was like, it's funny for me looking back on it. Because I remember I'm talking to her about one of my friends, and they said something along the lines of like, "Oh, I understand you." And I was with my therapist, and I like got angry about it. I was like, "No, they don't fucking understand me. Nobody understands me." And then like I kind of calmed down for a second, and I laughed. I chuckled to myself, and I said, "Well, it's like they don't understand anything." And I was like, "Well, it's not surprising though. I mean, they're all so stupid." Right? And she was like, "What?" And I started going this grandiose rant, just saying how like, yeah, I was like, I mean, look at them. They all say that I think that I'm better than them, but of course I am. Look at me and look at them. They're pathetic. And my therapist, like wide eyed, being like, okay, like, and these are your friends? I'm like, well, yeah, but like, I guess it's not all of them, but whatever. Like, I, I just kept going on that rant. And then I remember about like it was the end of the session, so I put on my jacket. I'm leaving. I'm like, ah, well, that felt good to get out. And she said, yeah, I'm humbled. And I said, are you mocking me? And very, very quickly after that, I was diagnosed.
Wow. I think this is interesting because one of the things they talk about with NPD is not many people with MDPD are self-aware of it. And one of the hallmarks of your content and who you are is that you are so open about your diagnosis and you are aware of your traits and personality traits. When you're in the moment, do you have like an out of body experience and know when you're being narcissistic?
um, I apologize for like being so talkative, by the way, but
No.
um, hmm. There is a okay. In the moment when I'm interacting with somebody that I know personally and we're having like a situation, I'm always fixing my hair, by the way. I apologize, but I just always feel like it looks bad. But it's never like how do I put it? So in the moment, I usually there's sometimes an inkling in the back of my mind being like, oh, I'm this might be my pathology right now. But my instincts very often kind of override that and I act out anyway. And then in post, it's way easier to see. And then there's times that like it almost feels like I'm like, let's say I go into a narcissistic rage in quotes. I don't love the term, but it does like I've experienced times where I have this uncontrollable anger and I lash out at people. It's like I'm viewing myself through like eh, eh, some people describe it as viewing myself through a movie. I don't know if that's the wording I would go for, but it's like I know what I'm doing, and I almost there's a part of me that knows that it's wrong, but it's like I'm acting on instinct. It's like all of my higher processes have just like shut down, and I'm just lashing out at whatever I view as a threat. I don't know if that makes sense. I apologize.
Oh, that's amazing. Look, I could talk, there's so much I want to cover about you, but I wanted to ask because I reached out to you because my pod is obviously all about relationships and divorce. And I wanted to reach out
Yeah.
to you because obviously nobody goes into a relationship thinking, oh, I'm going to end up with a narcissist. Because what I find interesting is we all have narcissistic traits, right? So, what would you say are some of
Sure.
the good things about narcissists that attract people to them or to you?
I've thought about this a little bit. I don't have like a very concrete answer because it's like because I have noticed myself that like people are very often attracted to me. And what I kind of chalk this up to is this is actually a very little known fact about narcissists is that people say that narcissists don't have empathy. This is often true, um, but I mean that's not universally true. There's actually 50, not 50. It's around 40% of narcissists actually do have empathy. Interestingly enough, at least how they measured it in that study. But narcissists are very often hyper empathic towards people's reactions to them. Like, if you, like, how your reaction, what you're thinking about me, I am hyper attuned to. And this can lead to a lot of issues, right? Like, let's say you're upset about something else, but then I pick up on that because I think it's about me, then I lash out on you. Like, that's happened to me a lot. Um, but because of that, just intuitive nature of what people are thinking about me, I can very easily kind of adjust my reactions to people and make it in a way that I know that they're going to be liking me. Um, and so I think that makes it very easy for narcissists, at least at first. There's actually a study about this too. At first, narcissists make amazing first impressions, and then the opinion goes downhill very quickly. And the interesting thing in this study is that the narcissists are aware of this. I mean, hell, I was aware of this. My catchphrase before I would, not catchphrase, but I would say to people before I was diagnosed, I would say, I make amazing first impressions. It's all downhill from there. Like, it'd be a joke, but like, it was true. I knew it. Um, and so I really think it's this attunement to people's reactions towards us and what we have to do to make them like us. And in fact, narcissists and people with borderline personality disorder, we actually can see emotions in the eyes better than average controls. Like, I think, like, there's this test that's done and it just shows you their eyes. And you have to say what emotion they're feeling. Normal people, they score around 60%, and then narcissists and borderlines score around 80%. Wait, 60% for the first group. I'm not sure if I said that right. But yeah, that's kind of my opinion on it, at least.
Does that process of making a great first impression, does that get exhausting? And is that why the devaluation stage happens?
I love that question because I've had a couple people ask me this. Like, I'll explain my thought processes, and people are like, that sounds exhausting. And the question almost baffles me sometimes because I'm like, that's just normal. That's just like how I exist. Like, calculating what people are thinking about me and stuff like that. I mean, I guess it is. I live a very stressful life. Don't get me wrong, but it's hard for me to say, oh, it's exhausting because that's just how I've always existed. Well, or at least as long as I can, since I was like, I don't know. I don't know. It's been a long time. I like. It's the only thing I can really relate to at this point. Um, Wait, what was the second part of that? I'm sorry. I think I missed it.
Oh, just, the devaluation phase, like what sparks that? Because people talk about how narcissists are
Oh,
charming and
yes.
then they devalue the partner. So what sparks that in you that you've noticed?
Also a good question. So for me at least, so when I think, just for context, I think it's important to point out that when I meet you, like, people think that like love bombing is this intentional thing. I'm gonna get supply from them. I'm gonna like just drain them of their energy. It's not like that. But I'm sure there's some people that do it like that. Sure, there's some like Jeffrey Dahmer types, right? But for the average narcissist, it's not like that. Let's say I met you and I was like, oh, like, I'm attracted to this person and I think that they're fun. My mindset would be purely like, oh, this is my soulmate. This is the perfect person for me. We're going to be the best, like, relationship. We're going to be better than everybody else in our relationship. They're my soulmate. Like, very grandiose ideas. A lot of the times we'll hide this though, and it only kind of comes out through these shows of affection because for me, it would look like I'm pathetic if I showed somebody that I had this degree of affection for them and stuff. So I will hide it a lot of the times. But usually what happens is I'll notice, like, let's say it usually happens around 4 months into the relationship, maybe a little bit earlier, where I'll notice something that doesn't fit that narrative that we're perfect for each other, right? It could be the smallest thing. I once had a girlfriend who, like, at the time, I was like really interested. Like, I was getting really into like, I had a. It sounds so stupid, but I had a fascination with like ants, and I was like doing a bunch of research into it just because I was interested in it. Really stupid, but she didn't have the same interest, and so in my mind, I was like, oh, she must not be my soulmate. My soulmate must still be out there. Like, and then everything that she did, I was just analyzing it for any sort of like reason that this relationship wasn't working, that she wasn't the perfect person. And a lot of the times what happens is it's one of my friends. They say something kind of, maybe not even negative, but something that like makes me question like their worth or something. And I'll be like, oh crap, like they can't be my soulmate then. And it starts that process.
Yeah, so it's not really an insidious evil plot or anything. I think people love to pigeonhole narcissists into like these evil schemers, but it's like it's
Yeah.
chemistry and it's just natural. Which actually leads us to an amazing, like the next question. Um, we've talked a little bit about what's charming about narcissists, but I wanted to ask you for your insights on breaking up with a narcissist, also divorcing one. In your opinion, like how is it different to break up with a narcissist than say a normal? No one's normal, but a person who's not NPD.
Right. Is this in the context of the person breaking up with me or me breaking up with them?
Well, that's really interesting. I didn't even think of that. Is there a different type of reaction?
Yes. Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Okay, spill. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay. So if somebody breaks up with me, my thought process, like, narcissists think hierarchically. We think that there's people that we rank everybody in like basically who's the best and who's the worst. And if somebody breaks up with me, what that tells me is that they think that they're better than me, so, and they think they can do better. So they're getting rid of me to find somebody better. Basically, we don't have this. It's really hard for me to. I understand it cognitively nowadays, but it's hard for me to really emotionally get the idea of, oh, we're just not compatible and would be happier with other people. For me, it's always better person you're looking for. You think I'm not worth it. So if you break up with me, I'm sitting there thinking, oh, that this person thinks I'm worthless, they think I do better, and that hit to my ego. It feels like heartbreak, or at least, well, narcissists have alexithymia. We don't really know what our emotions are half the time. So we kind of mistake that like pain as heartbreak. And I've actually been in the situation a few times where I've gotten somebody back because of that, because I thought it was heartbreak. And as soon as I had them back, nothing. I didn't feel a fucking thing. Because it was just me. Like subconsciously at least wanted to prove to myself I could have this person. And so if you break up with a narcissist, if they assuming they didn't pressure you into breaking up with them, they're going to think that they're in love with you and maybe get obsessive even. I've had that happen a couple times with me. I've never like stalked or anything that crazy because I'm too proud. I'm like, fucking only pathetic people would stalk. Fuck. But yeah, so a lot of the times if somebody breaks up with me, my interest will just hone in on them. Now, if I break up with somebody, it's interesting because I have a really hard time breaking up with people. I don't know why. I'm still trying to figure that out. Like, I feel like I can't look somebody in the eyes and tell them that, like, oh, I don't want you. And part of that might just be I want the self-esteem regulation that they give me, and I don't want them to dislike me. But often I'll push them to break up with me because that feels better. I don't fully know why. Um, what I often find though is that a lot of people who are in relationships with narcissists and go through a breakup is that like during the course of the devaluation in quotes, I don't like these terms, but they're good shorthand. they like they'll start getting confused about it, and our distance often is like when we're devaluing people, we almost it gets to a point that everything they do kind of annoys us, and our distance is this effort to make a separation so that they'll like end it on their own terms. It's really weird.
That's I'm just sitting here like going through my Rolodex of like past relationships. I'm sure anyone listening to this has moments of, oh yeah. Like, um
I'm so sorry. I'm not trying to re-traumatize you or anything.
okay, so in saying all of that, I get a lot of DMs from women who are, or people, sorry, women and men who are dealing with or divorcing a narcissistic ex. Do you have any tips or insights on, like, if you're arguing with a narcissistic partner, what kind of tactics they might use and how to counterbalance those tactics?
This one's hard for me because when I give advice, I can give insight in my mind very well, but giving tactics against it, I'm like, man, I don't even know how to handle myself, let alone like fucking how somebody else could. But my genuine, the only things that I really think about is one, very, very strong boundaries. Because if you kind of if you encroach on their boundaries, they're going to feel attacked. If you back off from your boundaries, they're going to feel like you're weak and they can walk all over you. I always say, my roommate actually, she I've been friends with her since I don't know, we were like 7th grade, and she has been very instrumental in me finding help. And she's always like, whenever I find she's said, I asked her about this because I want to make a video on it. She was like, when I found a boundary, I just keep it there with you. If I push too hard, you're going to either feel ashamed and retreat and just hate yourself and lash out, or you're going to, attack back. If I back off, then you're just going to walk all over me. And so just finding a boundary and just keeping it there, I think is one of the most instrumental parts of just communication in general with a narcissist. Now, when it comes to any sort of manipulation, so here's the thing that you kind of have to understand when communicating with a narcissist is we think almost everything you do is manipulation. If you tell me how you feel because I hurt you in some way, I think you're attacking me. You're like, when you did this, it really hurt me. I'm thinking you're trying to shame me. I think that and so I'll lash out, right? I genuinely think, and I don't have a bunch of evidence for this. I'm very, this is just kind of it's a very, what's the word? I can't think of the word, but it's in its infancy. This thought that I have is that being as honest with you can with a narcissist is the best way to go. Just because one, you know that you're not fucking, you don't have to feel any guilt yourself, obviously. And two, it kind of disarms us because we're trying to get you to play this game. We'll not what we're trying to get you to, we're expecting you to play it. We think you're playing the same game. And being completely honest with us, it can actually take us off guard a lot of the times because we're expecting you to say things that are very instrumental to winning the argument. And so when you're completely honest, we don't have much to work with. I hope that makes sense. Again, that thought is very much in its infancy.
No, that's really powerful. I guess I'm trying to think of a scenario. Say, I think I wrote one down. What do you do? I don't know. I had someone message me recently and say their ex was doing a smear campaign to poison all their friends against her to make her out as the bad guy. And I did a little research. Apparently, that's kind of a common thing in breakups with narcissists. What can she do? What's your one tip for her?
Okay, so first of all, also I feel I'm talking a lot. I am so sorry.
No. This is all about you. This whole interview.
See, this is what healed narcissism looks like. I just say my insecurities out loud instead of manipulating you into reassuring me.
That's cool.
But yeah, so when it comes to smear campaigns, what I always tell people, and I'm not going to say this always works, but in my experience, what happens is, at least when I was younger and I would indulge in behaviors like that, I would people are seeing how obsessive I am over the situation. How I'm just like lashing out at them whenever I get the chance. And usually for me, because usually for me, it wasn't really calculated, but it'd be more of like, I mean, I've had both situations. There's calculated ones and then not calculated ones. The more common was not calculated ones. People would bring my ex up and I get like angry at them and then just like rant about how they're a terrible person, right? Because I can't accept that like I'm hurt. I can't accept that I feel ashamed for hurting them. Like there's so much about that I just can't accept, and I have to cover up with anger. Um, but so my best, like, this doesn't always work, but what I see is the most consistently effective is when you treat it very calmly. Because the thing is, people are seeing that the narcissist is looking fucking unhinged when they're ranting about you, right? They're like, "Whoa, that's a lot." Okay, I need to. I'll think about that later, right? And they might take it at face value at first, think they're very passionate. But if you respond in a way, like let's say you have a friend who comes up to you and they're like, "Hey, so and so said all these things about you," and you're like, you know, I don't see the situation that way. It makes me sad that like there's this animosity between us now. Like, but I'm wishing him the best, but I don't really see the situation as he sees it. You're going to look, controlled, calm, rational, which I think is the most important thing. Meanwhile, he's not getting the reaction that he wants, and he's like lashing out even more. And people are like, whoa, okay, maybe the accused person is a little bit more, is a little bit more in the truth here. Again, that doesn't always work, but in my experience, that's what has the most consistent kind of response to it, just based off of how I would lash out about people to everybody. Nobody likes a shit talker, I guess.
Feels so good in the moment, though. Feels so good.
Oh my god, I love gossip. I love it so much.
You have been so generous with your energy and your thoughts and your time, but I just wanted to, and I'll release you, but I just wanted to end on one more question. Is there ever a way to get back at a narcissist or hold them accountable?
Those are two very different questions, first of all. but yeah, so to get back at a narcissist, like, I've had people ask me this before because, and I don't judge people for asking that because it's like, oh, everybody, to a degree, everybody wants vengeance. Everyone wants justice. And I can understand that. But I try not to really indulge that mindset too much because I'm like, okay, you're just perpetuate especially with a narcissist, because you lash out against a narcissist in retaliation, that's going to like make them even more convinced of their like righteousness in attacking you. Not to mention, narcissists, there was a really interesting study on this, is that narcissists, you'll have a limit. You'll be at a point where you're like, okay, enough is enough. Narcissists don't. They have this mindset, and I do as well sometimes. Yeah, I said sometimes, but no, I have it almost all the time. Somebody tries to bring me down, I'll bring the entire fucking ship down with me before I let somebody get away. Right? Like, that is the most self-destructive you can see a narcissist, is when they feel backed into a corner and like somebody is trying to ruin them. They don't care about that. That's the thing. Like everyone says like, oh, narcissists love themselves too much. Bullshit. Narcissists think they're better than people. And so they think they deserve to do whatever they can. But we deep down hate ourselves. We don't like to admit it to ourselves. Well, give or take. But we almost universally hate ourselves. So you're like attacking me in retaliation for something I've done. I'm thinking, oh, this like monster is trying to like bring me down. I hate myself. I don't care if I like ruin myself as long as they come down with me, if that's the only option right now, right? So I never recommend retaliation against a narcissist. And honestly, the best retaliation you can have is the fact that, like, I mean, this sounds a little victimy, but the best revenge that you have the best revenge because you're not a narcissist. You got away from this person who made you miserable. The narcissist has to live with that person their entire life. The person they hate the most themselves. And so I always say that, like, there's no revenge that you can do that will make a narcissist more miserable than they already are. Now, when it comes to accountability, you seem you're having reactions right now. Like, I'm curious, what are you thinking?
That's like a mic drop moment right there. I loved it. Great.
I should have just ended it like that. Just hung up the phone.
No. Give me accountability.
But yeah, okay, yes. So accountability. So I actually texted my roommate / friend about this today because, again, I've known her since I was in like the 7th grade. I actually pulled up literally before I told you that literally before we started, I was like, give me a second. I want to make sure I have these texts like here. And I basically asked her, like, okay, hey, like, how do you, like, you're the person that basically can make me, like, reflect on things. How would you hold me accountable? And they said, it depends on the nature of accountability. And I was like, well, fucking of course. But, like, what does that mean? But she said, and it really made me think, you can, and when she says you, she's referring to me, but she said, you can be held accountable to the reality of the situation if the other person is firm and they have a strong grasp on their perspective. However, your perspective of that will likely view that reality as inaccurate, and often facts and events will be skewed over time during this, which is very, very true. Like, there's been times that I've been convinced, like, let's say somebody really comes at me at something I've done, I'll feel very ashamed in the moment, but over time, I'll, like, kind of rewrite history, so to speak, and justify it in my own mind. And she went on to say, so for you, it doesn't feel like being held accountable in the same sense that other people would view it. Like, so basically, if somebody comes at me with that, I'll either fall into my shame spiral, or rationally, I'll be like, I can see how I did something bad, but emotionally, it doesn't really, I don't feel it emotionally at all. And this is true. My sister has a couple personality disorders as well, and basically, we both make actions that we regret, and we're not proud of them. We don't like them, but we don't really feel any remorse. We feel regret because of the consequences, or knowing that we can feel ashamed that we hurt somebody sometimes, but that doesn't really come out unless it's like shoved in our face. And also I want to point out that my friend is purely speaking to their experience with me. They don't know any other narcissists. So, like, I don't want to say that's a universal thing, but that's generally how it happens for me.
Oh my God. I'm so incredibly grateful for your time. This has been you're so charming. You're like this very, like, not that I think like narcissists are like evil, but like you're just really affable, open kind of guy. Like, who wouldn't love a narcissist?
See, it's easy to see how you guys fall for us, right?
Okay. I am going to release you. I am so incredibly grateful, and also grateful for the research and effort you put in to make sure this was a really thorough interview. So I'm grateful. Thank you.
I try my best. Thank you for having me, though.
Oh, you're amazing. Okay. Keep doing what you're doing. You're helping a lot of people.
I try. Thank you.